Hey, listen. We might have had some technical difficulties, but I'm here. Trust me, I'm here, and I'm ready. I'm ready for the work, and I got the blue and orange on, orange and blue, right? I got my orange hat on, symbolizing my Gator helmet. So we're talking some Florida Gators tonight, right? We're talking some Florida Gators tonight. Athletes Forum podcast here with College Sports Crew. Thank you all for tuning in. If you haven't already, drop a comment. All right, this is an interactive show. Subscribe to the channel. The links are below. Right? Let's not waste any time. Let's get right into it, man. It's been a hell of a couple games from the Florida Gators, right? It's been a hell of a couple games, and we're gonna touch on that, right? So on the board, as you can see, we're gonna talk them Gators boys stay hot in regards to UF basketball. Arkansas, a SEC school I don't usually talk much about, but John Calipari's doing some things, right? They got a big commitment. Let's dive into that a little bit. On3 released their top quarterbacks of 2026 going into the next season. I got some thoughts on that. There's a coach upset. There's a coach upset with what a media member, said about him or maybe lack of. So we'll dive into that and see if it's accurate. Right, if it's accurate. And not to mention, we are doing a new series. I'm calling it The Wheel. It's a fan base check-in, right? I'll dive more into that as we get closer to that time frame. But let's dive into it, man. Let's dive into them Florida boys stay hot, right? Them Gator boys stay hot, coming off a great win versus South Carolina yesterday. Even though they didn't cover the spread, I won't fault them for it. I won't fault them at all for it. But you're right. They took care of their business, right? BTA another win versus the South Carolina Gamecocks, and it's kind of drawing the question: is this Gator team real or fake? Right? Is what they're doing right now is it giving them momentum heading into March Madness, heading into SEC play? Right? Because as we head into SEC play, we're the one team now. We have a big game versus Kentucky to end the season. It's probably going to be a SEC championship rematch, most likely. Can they ride this momentum and keep it going into SEC play, into March Madness, right? So we'll talk about that. The Gator boys, right? Listen, this is a team that continues to prove that they're going to crash the boards. They're going to get the rebounds. Nobody in the country is going to out-rebound them, out-aggressive, out-physical them, right? Todd Golden got these boys playing. And not to mention Todd Golden, right? Todd Golden is a coach that is in Bobby Knight territory if he can win another national championship, because he will be one of only a handful of guys to win 2 natties under 40, right? Todd Golden is doing his thing for the Gators, right? And you talk about these next upcoming games we got. It's a fairly light schedule. Listen, I'm not here to get it twisted. It's a fairly light schedule, right? There's Ole Miss, right? There's Mississippi. There's Ole Miss and there's Texas. Then we got Arkansas, Mississippi State, right? And then that big game versus Kentucky to end the seed, right? So even with all this momentum, this was a team that kind of started slow throughout the stretch. Chris, I hope it pains you to death, Chris. I hope it pains you to death. Them Gator boys stay hot. So even though this is a team that is really playing its best ball where it needs to be, right? Their ceiling, even when you talk about the tournament, is probably the 2 seed if they can even get to that, right? With that being said, I think their floor is the 3 seed. I don't think they're going to drop lower than the 3 seed in whatever bracket we get into, right? So we're going to get some favorable matchups when we get to tournament play, right? Again, the ceiling's the 2 seed. Their floor is the 3 seed, right? No, regardless of what happens going forward, right? So now that begs the question: can they repeat? Which is what everybody's talking about nowadays. Can the Gator boys repeat? This is a new Gator team. This is a Gator team that came in with national championship expectations based on how they did last year, and a lot of guys we got returning, this year, right? Some guys that are playing well right now. Ruben Chalelu playing well. Alex Condon, congrats, my man. 1,000K club, right? Tommy Howell. Right? These are guys in regards to our front court that is playing really well right now, and we're going to need them to keep playing well, because that's what's going to win when we get into championship play, right? This is a team that's they're gritty, they're rough, they're rugged, right? They're ready for that smoke, and they're here for it, and I can appreciate that. Listen, we haven't seen much of it on the football side of things, right? So I can appreciate that. At least I have one Gator team, that's symbolizing, dragging somebody into the swamp and only Gators get out alive, right? I love how this team is playing. I love how they're crashing the boards. And Tommy Khan is really doing his thing right now. Xavier Lee, right? The guard we got from Princeton. Him and Boogs are doing their thing, right? Now, granted, nothing crazy yesterday, right? But him and Boogs are doing their thing. And you're going to need guard play heading into these tournaments, right? A couple weeks ago, I touched on Nebraska, right? They're riding a 20-game win streak going into Michigan. My fear for Nebraska was the youth, the inexperience, and are those guards going to be able to really take over when needed, right? Translate that to Florida basketball, and we're seeing the chemistry between Xavier Lee and Boogs as well too, right? Something that they kind of started off slow at the beginning of the year. Again, we lost 4 out of our first 10 or 11 games, right? Riding off last year's expectations, but now these guys are playing the way they need to be playing. Now things are starting to peak, and as I said, Coach Golden really is having this team playing his best ball, right? Now, can the boys from the swamp do it again? That's going to be the question. That's what a lot of people are going to be wondering about this Gator team going forward. I'm excited to see, but them Gator boys stay hot. Part 2, them Gator boys stay hot, and I'm excited to see what it looks like for them going down the stretch, especially heading into that last Kentucky game. That last Kentucky game is going to be huge, and it's definitely something to keep an eye on. Right now, as we pay the bills here at College Sports Crew, listen, if you haven't already done so, we're on X, right? College Crew, right? We're also on YouTube as you're watching now, right? Shout out to the locker room, all you guys in there, right? Throw it in the chat. Let's talk about it, right? College Sports Crew on YouTube, College Sports Crew on TikTok. We got shows out the wazoo, right? We got baseball show coming into play, softball show coming into play. My guy Snacks and Pops really doing Chasing Omaha, right? So we really have a stacked lineup, right? So tune in, check us out. Tomorrow we got We Talk Ball, self-explanatory. Well, what's that show about? We Talk Ball, all right? Hey, shout out to my guy Pops, right? Family member of the program. I just want to give a shout out to my guy. Those on the inside, know the reason why. And because I'm giving Pops a shout out, let's transition that to Arkansas basketball. Hey, Calipari's doing it again. Coach Calipari is doing it again, right? They get a big recruit, right? Top number 2 player in the country, right? To join the Arkansas Razorbacks. Jordan Smith Jr., right? Huge commitment for Calipari. You're seeing the team, the mold, and what he's trying to build at Arkansas. Same thing he did at UMass. Same thing he did at Kentucky, right? Kentucky, it was just time for him to move on, right? And people even said, when you get to Arkansas, is he going to be able to replicate it? When he got to Arkansas, he had like 2 guys, right? So to see this turnaround and to see him able to get the guys that he's getting, a la Jordan Smith Jr., right? Calipari's doing it again. Calipari is doing it again. As I reference this right here from my guy Chris in the chat, early Final Four picks. Obviously, it depends on the bracket, but I'm going to say UConn, right? I think this game this weekend, which are some good quality games, Michigan versus Duke, right? Houston versus Arizona, which I think is a flawed team, Arizona. And then we got BYU versus, I believe it's Texas Tech. Unfortunately, Texas Tech, you just got the news, JT Toppin, ACL, he's out, right? So, Final Four picks. I think my Final Four favorites, and if I had to rephrase the question, I like UConn, all right? I'm riding with my Gators. I'm riding with the orange and blue, right? I think Michigan. Can make some noise. And I think there's going to be a sneaker team because I don't think Arizona's who people think they are, right? So if I had to go with that last team, let's go with Iowa State. Right? This is a team that plays good defense. I like Iowa State in the mix. But going back to Calipari in Arkansas, right? Jordan Smith Jr., number 2 player in the country right now, right? Number 2 player in the country for a class of 2026, right? This is a guy that chose Arkansas over teams like Duke, over some blue bloods, Duke, Syracuse, Kentucky, right? Combo guard, has length, exactly what Calipari wants. You think about all his guards that he had at Kentucky. Now, not necessarily as tall and lanky, but playmakers. And that's what Jordan Smith Jr. is, right? This is a guy that, resembles explosive ability, similar to John Wall, similar to Derrick Rose, a guy that can develop into a shooter like Jamal Murray or like Devin Booker, right? John Calipari got his mold of a player, right? And we'll see how he turns out next year, all right, for Arkansas, right? But Arkansas is going to be a team to mess with, especially if they get Bill Richmond to come back, right? This will be a team that has length on the outside, and they can defend and cover the 3-point line as well too, right? Coach Cal's doing his thing, right? He always has a plan when he's going into these types of situations, the unknown, willing to take a challenge because he believes in himself. He believes in his method. He also believes in his development, right? So I'm going to be very, very curious to see how Jordan Smith Jr. pans out and how he, fits in with that culture, with that team, right, down there in Arkansas. Now, if only they could get their football program turned around, right? Maybe we'll be talking them as well, right? But as I mentioned, Calipari, he gets his guy back in the mix, and it's going to be interesting to see what the future of Arkansas and the Razorbacks, look like going forward. All right. Listen, it's February, but it's never too late to talk football. It's never too late to talk football. On three release, their, I guess you could say, pre-top 10 quarterbacks heading into 2026. Now, this hype and momentum in regards to the quarterbacks heading into this year was supposed to be the quarterbacks this past year. Unfortunately, it didn't pan out, right? We should have known from the LSU Clemson game that this was going to be an interesting year. This is going to be an interesting year. Cade Klubnik didn't work out. Garrett Nussmeier didn't work out. We get a guy who transferred to Indiana, winning the Heisman, and was going to be the number one pick in the draft, right? So, needless to say, I say that because things can change, right? But let's break down this list, right? So, top college football quarterbacks entering 2026. Of course, they threw Arch up top, right? Dante Moore, Sam Levitt, Julian Sayin, Josh Hoover, Gunnar Stockton, Jaden Mayava, Darian Mensah, Brandon Sorsby, CJ Carr. First issue I have with this, right? I'm going to start at the top. Love the hype around Arch. I like Arch as a quarterback. I think Dante Moore is the better quarterback, right? I think Dante Moore and what he's able to do at Oregon with those weapons has shown more consistency, and he's played more ball. He started at UCLA as a freshman before transferring to Oregon to back up Dylan Gabriel and then getting his shot this year, right? So I think Dante Moore might be the number one, in my opinion, could be the number one quarterback, right? I think Arch is probably getting some of the Arch and Texas hype, right? The same thing we did last year, right? Let's just slow down a little bit when it comes to Arch. Next, Sam Levitt. I'm sorry, Snacks, if you're watching this. Granted, maybe number one quarterback in the portal. I need to see more, man. I need to see more before I'm saying he's a number 3 dude. Maybe that's just my opinion. Drop a comment. Let me know what you think, right? Yeah. Yes, Chris. I think CJ Carr is a top 5 preseason quarterback, right? It doesn't matter that he's losing Jeremiah Love. CJ Carr has shown that he can sling the rock, right? He can sling the rock when it's needed, when it has to be, right? And they got weapons. They got those transfer wide receiver. I can't think of his name, from Ohio State. Notre Dame's going to be a problem, and they're going to have to be. They can't have any slip-ups next year because their schedule is poo-poo. Their schedule is weak sauce, right? Their schedule is not that good, right? I think CJ Carr is a top 5 quarterback. I think he will ride that momentum. I think CJ Carr is someone people are going to have to keep an eye out for, right? People have to keep an eye out for, right? Those who have watched this show, those who know me know I'm high on my guy Josh Hoover, right? I think I would put Sam at 5. I'd put Josh at 4, and I'd probably put CJ Carr at 3 if I had to rearrange the top 5 of this. But Josh, he's in the perfect system for what he wants to do and his skill set, right? He's in a system that he's going to flourish in. Josh Hoover is in a system where, dare I say, he might be a better fit for than their past quarterback, which turned out to be a Heisman Trophy winner, Fernando Mendoza, right? It might be my favorite signing in the portal this season. Josh Hoover to Indiana under Signetti, right? I like that. I like that a lot. Julian saying, there's something. I don't want to knock him because it's not his fault. He has the amount of weapons he has, right? I don't want to knock him for that. But to put him in the top 4, and granted, this is projecting, to put him in the top 4 and seeing how he performed in the Big Ten championship game, in the Sugar Bowl, right? I don't know, man. It just left a bad taste in my mouth personally. I don't want to knock the guy, but I mean, if we're projecting, honestly, I like Gunnar Stockton over Julian Sand, right? Gunnar Stockton's not your typical quarterback. Gunnar Stockton is a dog, and pun intended, right? Gunnar Stockton's that guy that he may throw 14 for 21, 150 pass, but he's going to have critical plays that he's going to use with his legs. He just has to let it go. And all the Georgia fans in the chat, you know what I'm talking about. He just got to let it go. Maybe this is the season where he lets it go. He's a from what I know, right? And Chris, correct me if I'm wrong. For what I know, he's one of the legendary quarterbacks in the state of Georgia from the stories I've heard, right? So it'd be interesting to see. I probably put Julian saying right above Jaden Mayava, right? Darian Mensah, I want to leave him there. I think Brendan Sorsby where he needs to be. In this case, he'll probably be bumped down to 10, right? But if I'm really looking at this top 10 of 2026 quarterbacks, I'm gonna go Dante Moore. I'll go Arch. I'll go CJ Carr. I'll go Josh Hoover, right? And then I'll go Gunnar Stockton, Julian Sayin, Mayava, Mensah, Sorsby. Oh, Levitt's in there too. Levitt will probably be after Josh Hoover. That'll probably be order. I put it down in, right? Now we're speaking of quarterbacks that were on the list. Who's off the list? Glaring. Where's Marcel Reed from Texas A&M? He had a high-power, explosive year. Granted, he's losing his OC, who's going to Kansas State to be the head coach, but he still has weapons, right? He still has the dude from Bama. I think it's Isaiah Horton that transferred, right? He still has Mario Craver. He's still gonna have some weapons. Where's Marcel Reed on this list? Where would you put him on this list if you put him on this list, right? What about Damon Williams, quarterback for Washington, right? Even though he transferred and reneged and went back, and they welcomed him with all arms, kissing babies, and signing autographs. Does he crack the top 10 in some people? I don't know, right? Those are some names we're gonna have to keep an eye out for, right? But it's gonna be interesting, right? What about my guy, Aaron Philo? I'm just kidding. He hasn't done enough. He hasn't done enough for the Gators, but we'll see. But it was an interesting list. I like doing stuff like this. I like reacting to it. It's interesting links. Drop a comment. Let me know what you think about this list. Who's missing? Who's not? Who's your top 3, top 5? Right? Let's keep this thing rolling. Speaking of Damon Williams, there's a coach that's upset with a media member. And usually coaches don't really dive into that. Block out the noise. Doesn't mean anything. All that matters in the locker room, right? Coach Pete. That's what they all do, right? Someone get Jed Fish on the phone. Because his feelings are hurt. Right? Josh Pate, within a 3-year window, he was judging his top 12 college programs in the country. There was no Washington. Jed Fish goes, all right, bet. All right, got it. Right? No Washington? All right. We'll see how this goes. Right? Jed Fish is in his feelings. Now, listen. Washington is going to be a team to keep an eye out on, because if you follow Jed Fish and what he's done, went to Arizona, flipped him around in 2 years. He's going into Washington, second year, I believe. Yeah, second year in Washington. This could be the turnaround. He has a quarterback. If his feelings aren't hurt, he has a quarterback in Damon Williams who could probably be a Heisman candidate, dare I say, at some point. He plays in the conference. He's going to get the opportunities, right? We'll see how that pans out, right? Hey, Chris, I agree with you, brother. I'd probably take Sorsby off. I'd probably take Sorsby off. I haven't really people when it comes to just to get off real quick. People when they think of Brandon Sorsby, they think of that opening game versus Nebraska where he almost pulled off what was considered an upset at the time. But also, he's a guy that's going to use his legs. He is what Texas Tech needed this year. Brandon Sorsby is what Texas Tech needed this year, right? A guy that could threaten the defense with his legs, but also who could spin it as well too. And that's why I'm curious to see how Texas Tech is going to look in the Big 12, right? But back to Jeff Fish in Washington. Listen, Washington's a respectable program, right? They haven't done much in 3 years, right? They haven't done much in 3 years, right? And I think this is just at the mark where they just finished or just came off that national title, right? With Penix and the gang. So, you know, when I'm looking at Washington, I would agree with Pate. I don't think they're a top 12 program right now. I don't think that one bit, right? So Jeff Fish, let's start getting some wins in one of the top 2 conferences in the P2, right? And then start talking about your program being a top 12 program, right? And if you care about what people think, slide into my DMs. We'll chop it up, man. I'll get you on the show. College Sports Crew. You know how we do, man. Hey, listen, this is gonna be a fun little project, fun little segment we're starting to do, right? All right, locker room. I see you out there. Drop a comment. Let's talk about it. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, right? Even if you just want to say hi, I'm here for you. So we're gonna do this thing called the wheel. The wheel is basically a fan-based check-in. Now, with the wheel, well, we're gonna talk about a couple things, right? The wheel is going to determine what team within the top 25 we're going to talk about, right? And what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about scheduling. We're going to talk about storylines, roster, what to expect, right? We'll see how this goes in the next couple weeks. We'll probably revisit this as we get closer to the season, right? Or maybe we'll go close to the season. It's going to take us 25 weeks to get through all teams, right? We're only going to do the top 25 until that changes. Once that change, get that wheel back going, all right? So I am going to bring to you what we call is the wheel, right? And just give me 1 second here. All right. Let's get this bad boy up and running. This is a nice little project. Believe it or not, I got this idea from my colleagues, right? From College Sports Crew. They do We Talk Ball. They do they'll be on tomorrow, by the way. But they do a series, an autopsy series, right? Just I was like, you know what? Kind of like that. Right? I kind of like that, right? So let's get this wheel going. Who are we gonna? There we go. There's the bad boy. There's the wheel. All right. Let's see who the wheel would like for us to break down. All right. Hold on. I have a comment. Let me answer this real quick. All right. Let me see. Jeffers B. Oh man. I wish you would date me too, man. I wish you would date me too. All right. Let's spin this wheel and get this thing going. Who we got? Top 25. Who's on the wheel first? Well, why is she not spinning? There we go. Technical difficulties. You gotta love technology, right? All right. Just give me 1 second. Let me work with this real quick. I need the wheel to let me know what are we doing here. Is it spinning for you guys? Is it BYU? They want us to chop it up about BYU? All right. That's what I'm getting on my end. I'm getting BYU. All right, we'll go with BYU. All right, so give me a second. Let me pull this up real quick. All right. All right, BYU, you're first up. All right. BYU rated number 11. All right. Rated number 11 in the preseason top 5 according to On3 and the teams that they've done. So what do we know about BYU, right? Let's talk about BYU. BYU coach Kalani Sitake. We knew he almost took the Penn State job, right? We knew that was something that was going to potentially happen until Crumble Cookie came into the mix and said, "Hold on, before you're not leaving Utah, right? We can't have you leaving Utah for us, right?" So Kalani Sitake, he's back with BYU, right? BYU really has to kind of fix some things to compete with your Texas Tech, so to say, right? This is a team that they got some key players returning too, right? Some key players. You think about their running back, LJ Martin, right? 1,000-yard rusher. You think about their quarterback, Bear Bachmeier, rocking the 47, right? You think about this BYU team that went 12-2 last year, right? This is a team that dominated the Big 12 outside of Texas Tech, right? So offensively, they're going to get that firepower coming back into the mix. They're going to get that, that experience coming back into the mix, right? Now, defensively, so they got some key guys returning. You think about linebacker Isaiah Glasker, number 16, right? He'll be a top linebacker next year, right? You think about their safety. I'm going to mess this up, but forgive me if you're watching, right? Falatu Setule. Long story short, 83 tackles, led the team in tackles, right? Aggressive safety in the box. I love those type of safeties, right? He is going to be returning in the mix as well, right? And then, we got to talk DBs, right? I got to talk about my guy, Evan Johnson, right? Evan Johnson, cornerback, right? Led the team in interceptions with 5 interceptions. Good size too, right? 6 foot, 185-ish, right? And this was a defense that history, they're known for gaining turnovers, a momentum switch, right? Really gaining more possessions, right? For their offense, right? This is a team historically, BYU has been known to, drag you into the mountains, right? Drag you out there into, Provo, Utah, right? And really trap you with a feisty defense that they've had, right? Some new players to keep an eye on. Big-time quarterback commit, Ryder Lawrence, right? One of the top 5 quarterbacks in the nations last year, right? Out of California. He picked BYU over teams like USC, over teams like Oregon, right? That just shows and says a lot about not just the BYU culture and the organization, but Kalani Sitake and what he's selling and the future that they're selling. I'm curious, in a storyline that we're going to hear a lot of, I'm curious to see what this is going to look like with Ryder Lawrence coming to the mix, with Bear Bachmeier, in the mix as well too, right? So what does that look like? Another storyline to keep an eye out for BYU. How are they going to get better on third down, right? How are they going to get better on third down? This is a team that wasn't great on third down. This is a team that really struggled in the red zone. So what are they doing to fix those particular issues, right? What are they doing to fix those particular issues? And that's some things that they have to address in the offseason during spring ball, right? There are some things they're going to have to solidify for, because they're going to need some young guys to come in to really carry the depth of that defense, to really carry the depth of that team, right? So BYU is going to be an interesting team. All right, BYU is going to be an interesting team. Let's take a look at their schedule. Right? Let's pull this up. All right, so their schedule. Utah State. I didn't even know that was a school. They had a football team, right? So let's just mark that down as a win. Arizona's not going to be easy, right? Arizona is a team that played well last year, right? So they're a team that's not going to be easy. Colorado State, Jim Moore, Colorado State, right? New head coach. What that team's going to look like, that's going to be a big question mark, right? And then TCU on the road is going to be interesting, right? TCU on the road is going to be interesting. Iowa State. Iowa State's not what they were now that Matt Campbell has gone on to Penn State, all right, and happier things in Happy Valley, right? So Iowa State is going to be, I'm going to mark that down as a win, right? Let's play the game. We'll play the win-loss, loss, win game. Utah State, that's a win. I'm going to give them a close win versus Arizona, right? I'll give them a Colorado State a win. TCU, I'll give them a win. Iowa State, I give them a win. All right, so they're starting the season 5-0. Now here's their big test. Road game versus Notre Dame. I believe it's a road game, right? I can't see that. But when they play Notre Dame, that's their first true big test, right? Especially after coming off 3 Big 12 conference games. Now they got to go to play Notre Dame. CJ Carr, we just talked about him, right? A top 5-3 quarterback, in my opinion, right? They get past that game, they get a little bit of breathing room because then you go to UCF. We don't know what UCF is going to be, but Arizona State is looking to bounce back. Yeah, they lost Sam Levitt, but they had a good portal class. Got a lot of weapons at receiver and running back, right? Leek Brown from Texas, right? Omari Miller for Colorado. Arizona State got some dudes, right? And then their back half of their schedule is brutal. I'm going to be honest because you got Notre Dame, UCF, then you go Arizona State, Utah. I'm going to give them a loss versus Notre Dame. I say they beat UCF. And between Arizona State and Utah, they're going to lose one of those games, right? I'll say they lose Arizona State. I say they beat Utah, right? Baylor, they'll get a win. Sorry, DJ Lagway. No hard feelings. Kansas is going to be tough, right? And then Cincinnati. So my question, granted, I already know. Drop it in the chat, call me, do whatever you want, right? Right? I already know you're going to be like, who is this guy projecting? Let's have fun with this, right? BYU fans, my question for you guys, right? This is a fan base check-in. I'm talking specifically to you guys. My question for you guys is the Big 12 championship, not just getting there, title win. Is the Big 12 championship realistic? There's no Texas Tech on here. That's a huge. You could get past Notre Dame with a win. You're playing with house money. If you're BYU, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out, right? And listen, they got it. They could get through this schedule, but it's always going to come back to that Texas Tech game. And if, when, how they're going to be able to get over the hump, right? I think they could get past Utah, but we'll see. We'll see how it all pans out. Spinner didn't work. I'm sorry. Spinner landed on BYU number 11, right? Landed on BYU number 11. Let me try it for shits and giggles again. All right, there we go. I fixed the spinner. I'll get it right for next week. It'll be interesting to see who's next week, right? But we gotta dive into it. Hey, let's pay some bills real quick. Let's pay the bills again, right? If you're here, you're still here. I still see there's some people still in the locker room. I see you down there, and I'm happy that you're here. I appreciate you here. If you haven't already, like the channel, subscribe, drop a comment, right? But if you haven't, subscribe. X College Crew, YouTube College Sports Crew, TikTok College Sports Crew. Athletes Forum Podcast, right? Join the locker room. I appreciate all your support. Thank you all for tuning in. Next week on the wheel, we'll get it fixed. I'll be curious to see who we're going to be talking about next week. But BYU fans, let me know what you think. Drop a comment. Is the Big 12 championship, a win in the Big 12 championship, a realistic opportunity for you? Athletes Forum Podcast.